Hello, welcome to the program Spiritism Inspiring Lives. Today our reflections will be based on the theme, You Will Succeed. To start to reflect about this theme, we may bring the focus back to us. When we hear this theme, how do we feel? Do we feel that we will succeed in our processes, in our experiences, in our growing process? Or do we doubt it? It is important to learn to have ownership of our own story, our own history, here from a transpersonal perspective throughout different existences. So we may even start to ask who I am. Do I know? And also at the same time, understanding when we reflect about learning to take ownership of your own history, of your own lives, means also understanding that there are challenging moments, but they are part in our learning process. So instead of running away, if we run away, we will not succeed in having the victory over our own shadows. But when we learn to look within in a loving way, understanding that yes, we all have shadows, shortcomings, and we are here in the school earth in order to get to know ourselves, understanding that we are immortal beings. We all bring our own history from previous existences, although we may be unconscious, but they will manifest through our choices, through our tendencies, through our belief systems, through our ways of being in this current moment when we are existing. Surely the shortcomings or shadows, imperfections that we bring within ourselves and our unconscious memories, where we as immortal beings used the law of cause and used our free will navigating within the law of cause and effect. Now we are here dealing with the effects of the causes that we stimulated in the past, could be in this existence, could also be in previous existences. But not only that, we are also here in order to stimulate new causes based on our essence, based on the inner wisdom that we bring within. So when we run away, when we find challenging moments, we are abandoning ourselves. We are not succeeded, and we will not succeed in those initiatives. But when we learn to hold ourselves, understanding that we bring innate the ability to actualize ourselves. If we don't know, we may engage with people who know more than we do, so that we can also learn to stimulate the inner power that each one of us brings within. So in that way, in order to succeed, it is fundamental also to start to think about in analyzing ourselves, do I choose sometimes to be in the victim position? Or would that be an option that perhaps is my preference? This actually is not a good option, because we are not victims of other people or the situations. We are victims of ourselves, the victims of our own limitations. So each time when may occur internally the belief systems, the ideas that we may think, oh, poor me, and what is happening to me, because those are references of victimization. We may stop, reflect, and learn, choose to think in a different way, to talk in a different way. I'm here to learn to override my own limited values that perhaps I may bring within myself, because I have been programmed by God in a divine way, which is in a loving way, that I can change my thinking, how I observe myself, how I relate with me, and in that way succeeding in the daily practice experiences that we all here on earth are facing, which the experiences which we call challenges, or some people may say, well, so difficult. It is difficult what we haven't learned yet. As we choose to learn, because at the end of the day we are learners of ourselves, we will observe that what was difficult or challenging at the beginning, later on will no longer be. Merely because we discovered or learned within ourselves that we have choices, using our free will, addressing the experiences from a place of love within, where the solutions of any obstacle may emerge. So in that way, we can succeed in our existences, as we still all are on the journey of evolution, on, let's say, in the learner's position. And there is nothing wrong with that. I would say, happy those who already realize that we are learners of ourselves. So we stop complaining, we stop demanding, we stop all the negativity that perhaps we bring within. But we choose freely to override those negative tendencies that we may bring, and choosing now to think, I am capable of changing. I choose to do that. That is my option. That is my initiative. And in doing so, is stimulating the good within. And that way, we will succeed better in our daily practice of self-love. So for us to carry on in our reflections, today I will bring the thoughts of the benefactor Emmanuel in the book Ação e Caminho, where he brings some references. Hello, Antonia, welcome as well, be with us. He brings some very short reflections, but they are very deep and profound. When we think about a team, you will succeed. He says, I quote, don't get discouraged, accept the trial. You will succeed is not only from a materialistic perspective, it is essentially from a moral ethical level, from a spiritual dimension. So we will succeed when we don't give up training as much as needed in order to accept our trials. What are trials? They are experiences that we already faced in the past and did not succeed. The past could be this existence or other existences. Or the trials could be, as learners as we all are of ourselves, that we are facing new learnings, new experiences that we never faced before, because we still have so much to learn that is natural that we will be facing experiences for the first time, which is a trial. Trials are experiences to stimulate the goodness within ourselves, the wisdom within ourselves, the superpower that we bring from the start point of self-love. So don't get discouraged. Is a reference of accept to learn in daily basis through all the experiences that the universe is presenting to us. Could be in our homes, with our family members, the challenging moments, could be in our workplaces, could be within our neighbors where we live, could be within our communities. So it's almost expanding self-awareness, that we understand trials are the challenges that we bring within, so that we choose freely now not to validate anymore if they are negative, limited, if they are against the goodness for everyone. And in doing so, we are renewing our thoughts, we are educating our emotions, and we are making new choices from the wiser place within. And in that way, surely we are succeeding in our relationship within the new determination, the new proposal that we establish for ourselves. So we have plenty of trials on daily basis. Trials, bear in mind, are experiences that make challenging our egoistic, personalistic tendencies that we bring within. And the purpose is for us now to stimulate the altruistic, the goodness, the divine within us, the light, the love. And in that way also to succeed means that we also choose freely to learn to be humble. Humbleness is not weakness, it's the strength of the soul who is becoming more and more aware. And as we move forward with the benefactor Emmanuel, you will succeed, he says to us, I quote, don't complain, who is patient. all of us, we still need to exercise and train and practice a lot of patience. And there is nothing wrong. Bear in mind, there is nothing wrong for us to be aware that we may be in contact with our own shortcomings, with our own immediacy. And now we choose to control ourselves, because that is a part of our internal autonomy. So also to succeed in eradicating the complaining patterns that perhaps you may be bringing, and sometimes unconscious. We come together, we start to complain about the weather. We complain about the governments. We complain about the wars. We complain. So let's increase our self-awareness and be wiser, so that we don't complain about people, about situations, but we may re-edit our consciousness in new ways of addressing the same experiences, but from a transpersonal perspective, which refers to the universal laws in the universe which governs us all. God, the divine within, and also becoming aware that we are immortal beings. We are the owners of our own history. We are the ones who are writing our own history on a daily basis, so that we can bring that into our attention and remembering us. Whatever our choice is in the present, it brings consequences. Consequences does not mean that it's negative. It brings either negative or positive, depending. But when we are here reminded, be patient. Whose patience? That means that we learn to disarm ourselves, that we need to learn to stop the aggressiveness within us, not in a punitive way, but as a free way. Be patient. Requires me to learn to let go the egoistic tendency of controlling people in situations. I want to now. Sometimes no. Sometimes the right way, the healthy way, is just to be silent. But silence means silencing my complaining thoughts, re-editing them. If I did the good that I could in any situation, and whatever is outside me, I realize I don't have control of that, the universe is inviting me to learn to trust the process and let go. These are ways that we learn to be more patient, that we fortify our souls and we succeed within ourselves in these aspects or patterns of immediacy, that the ego wants or the child wants to have the rewards immediately. Let's pay attention on that. And then Immanuel carries on here by saying, I quote, maintain serenity, do not criticize. We will succeed in conquering serenity when we choose to observe our tendencies, that usually when we criticize, we are within the pattern of the egoistic, personalistic tendencies based on mind right. I'm entitled to. But we are detached of the proposal of the soul to fulfill its own duties of the higher self. So when Emmanuel says, maintain serenity, do not criticize. If someone criticizes us, then let's develop the wisdom. We are invited. Be better than you used to be so far. Choose not to criticize. Instead, think in a constructive way about yourself and the other. In the end of the day, here on earth, this great school of souls, nothing belongs to us. No one belongs to us. Everyone and everything are divine instruments for us to awaken the divine aspects within us, and we can succeed in conquering that as long as we choose to do that. Not criticizing ourselves and not criticizing others. It requires a lot of courage, to be honest, and a lot of training to sustain ourselves within the goodness that we bring within, because we bring the seeds of goodness. We bring the seeds of love. When we learn to take responsibility, not to criticize, training responsibility towards our autonomy from the self level onwards, we are in the proposal of self-love, and we will succeed more and more in overriding the old systems, the old conditionings. Now, focus on the major initiative, self-love, not self-criticism. Each one of us, when we have the tendency to criticize others, is because we within have a very strong critic, that we also are very harsh with ourselves. And we will succeed when we learn to love ourselves, accepting that we have that aspect, accepting, understanding that we are not that aspect, is just part of us. And in the here and now, where we have the great opportunity and possibility through the reincarnation to choose to interact with ourselves in a different way, from a loving perspective, forgiving ourselves, forgiving others. Emmanuel carries on by saying us, forget evil, always forgive. You will succeed, meaning us, me and all of us. Forget evil means the shadows of others, the shortcomings of others. When other people may be harsh, when other people may be in their weak point, and the way that they look at us, the way that they talk to us, the way that they behave with us, the Emmanuel is telling, in order to succeed, and you will succeed, all of us, forget the evil. You know how we do that? When we become more aware of ourselves and understand and make contact with our own evil. What is evil? Someone may say, well, but I don't have evil. What are you talking about? Evil understanding are our shortcomings, or inferior qualities, or shadows. Always forgive, even when we do mistakes. The forgiveness process starts with ourselves, and we still do mistakes. That is part of the learning, as long as we don't feel pleasure and repeating them and then justifying them, which is a vicious circle. No. So forget evil. How do we do that within ourselves? Bring in our minds the goal, self-love. We cannot develop self-love when we are self-criticizing ourselves or when we are criticizing others, because criticizing others is a extension of our own relationship with ourselves. So each time when we have the tendency comes up to criticize, we silence, we think in a different way, we embrace ourselves, that is my negative aspect, which I choose now to enlighten. And I forgive, I let go. Forget means not to focus on our own negativity and project that on others. Surely, our experiences, they are restored in our perispirit. Not forget when Emmanuel says, don't give attention from the eyes of the ego. Accept it was experience. The experiences are neutral, actually. How we address them, how we respond emotionally, it depends where we are. So always forgive. We ourselves have great, great need to learn to forgive ourselves as well. And others. We do mistakes, others do too, as learners as we are. But we also succeed in getting things right. And quite often, when we are conscious and we choose so. Because that is part of the divine force called love that we bring within ourselves. And then Emmanuel carries on here, helping us in the theme, you will succeed. I don't know if you realize by now that Emmanuel, the spiritual benefactor, is not referring here succeeding materially. He is referring psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, ethically. And then he says, act in peace, do not argue. Act in peace, it requires, again, for us to control ourselves on our negativity, on our complaining, on our limitation, our own projections. Act in peace, silence within, calming our minds, our hearts, in relation to the external world, whatever it is. And he says further, do not argue. So each time when we are arguing with somebody else, we are not succeeding in developing self-control. But each time when we are conscious that we want to argue, but we control ourselves and we choose to silence and we choose to stimulate the creative mind within that we have choices, then we are succeeded. There was the goodness within. There was the patience. There was humbleness. There was responsibility. There was persevering and insisting and persisting to expand the goodness within ourselves. We have plenty of opportunities, all of us, wherever we are. That is actually the major goal while we are incarnated or not, because those who are without the physical body also can choose to do that, as we are learning here, because learners, all of us are, and all of us have free will. All of us can choose to succeed in our internal renewal process, in our internal growing process, in our internal progress, that we go beyond what we learned or how we learned to do or to relate in our existences. We all bring innate the ability to succeed in relation to become a better being, in relation to heal ourselves, in relation to evolve, because that requires efforts. I need to learn to think. I need to learn to discipline my thinking. I need to learn to discern. I need to learn to persevere in the goodness that I'm choosing. I am also invited to expand the love within, that it spreads outside, choosing internally the new version of ourselves to become a person which is demonstrating the goodness, the love, tolerance, fraternity, solidarity. And that way we can act in peace when we start to think in these ways and choose freely. Peace does not come from external element. Within Spiritism, we are learning by the Enlightened Spirits. Peace is a state of mind. It doesn't depend on people. It doesn't depend on situations. It doesn't depend on having this or that. Peace is a result of succeeding as many times as is needed, prevailing honesty, loyalty, humbleness, goodness, fidelity, sincerity, all of those aspects that the spirit as we are chooses to be in our daily existences, even if nobody else does it. But in the inner silence, we are stimulating these values. And then Emmanuel carries on by saying to us, speak calmly, do good as much as possible. Speak calmly does not mean that we mechanically train artificially to be in one way. No. Speak calmly means speak centered. And each one of us have our tone of voice or rhythm that we view as we perfect ourselves more, as we grow spiritually more. We view, notice how we as unique individuals in the universe, how we express ourselves calmly. Also, speak calmly has to do how much we develop also our emotional intelligence, how we learn to control our emotional reactions, how we selecting, how we mold them in a different way, always considering the centeredness, the balance, what is good for me, good for everyone. Goodness that only looks within myself is called selfishness, and I will not find calm or peace within myself. Practicing good for the good for all, that is what brings really and promotes the inner peace, which we all succeed in making these choices in our existences. Do good as much as possible. That is something that we even learn in the Spirits book. How much good do I need to do? It depends where each soul is in terms of their evolutionary pathway. Those who are more in an infantile way may think that doing good is more in the business, like, let's say I do here, you do too, 50-50. No. Once we wake up our souls and we realize through the constant mechanism of succeeding and expanding the goodness within, we may be surprised at the power that we already bring. And surely, as we are on the planet Earth, promoting ourselves in this school and being good people, good beings, and the goodness will expand as more as we choose to train it in and practice this on a daily basis. Therefore, we are succeeding towards this goal. We are becoming better and better, and more naturally, we are practicing goodness. And again, it starts within the family, where it's the first society where we find ourselves, with those who are close to us, that we attracted in order to heal ourselves, in order to help to heal them as well. So as more good we do, even if the others don't do it, it still is good for us, because we are awakening in stimulating the greatest power of all, which is the love that comes from God. And that is never, and it will never work against us. It will always, always stimulate us more. Because at the end of the day, as immortal beings as we all are, we only have for ourselves what we give to the world, not what we have, what we give of ourselves. So practicing goodness constantly surely helps us to succeed towards our goal of evolution, without any doubt. Even if no human being can see what we are doing, does not know our internal intentions, God does, and that is what matters. And we are no longer here calculated 5 minutes, 1 hour, or so on and so forth. As more as we are aware, meaning as more as we are healing ourselves from ourselves, we realize that the time has a different perception than the clock on the wall, if that makes sense, what I'm presenting here for you. And then as we're coming to the end of our reflections today, Emmanuel says for us, I quote, "Serve with joy, always work in a way that you will triumph. You will succeed." That is important that we bear in mind. So serve with joy. How I relate with my partner at home, how I relate with my children, if that is my proposal in this existence, marriage, family, partnership, where we learn to be responsible, but serve, help with joy. When we, again, succeed in favoring love within ourselves, which is a constant training, serving is no longer a burden. A burden only occurs when we are resisting to actualize ourselves. Always work in a way. Work means always do everything what you do. Could be cleaning the house, could be cooking, could be looking after the children, could be relating with my neighbors, could be paying my bills, could be relating with my colleagues in my workplace. Do it with joy. Respecting others, as we saw previously. Be patient towards others. Be patient towards ourselves as well, that you will triumph. What we learn with that means that surely we will succeed if we embrace this proposal of self-renewal or self-evolution that we constantly are practicing on our daily basis. Bear in mind that the moments on earth are very short, but we have the time that belongs to God in order to navigate deep within and heal ourselves with processes that previously we failed, we didn't get right, we didn't know, or we refused it. We were rebels. We didn't want to obey our inner higher self. But now, when we are in the best version of ourselves, surely we have inner resources that are awakening our command to stimulate them. That was the right direction. And in that way, we are succeeding. Even when here and there we don't get things right, forgive ourselves, give ourselves next opportunity, be the one to take the initiative to refer in a healthy way towards our own thinking, towards our own feeling, and towards others that are part of our existences. So as we are coming to the end, it's very important to finalize our reflections by saying, you will succeed if you persevere, and you will find joy in overcoming obstacles. No one of us can succeed if we don't persevere in repeating the experiences so that we overcome the obstacles that lie within us. Let's choose to do that. Let's give ourselves these opportunities, or the new opportunities on daily existences, on daily experiences that the universe presents to us as instruments for us to elaborate ourselves in this self-promotion process. We all can do that. Surely we all do it in a unique and different way. And we need to respect our nature, but also go beyond what we conditioned ourselves now. That is called inner evolution. And in that way, I hope that these brief reflections may help you to inspire in looking within, and also to strengthen the divine power that each one of us brings within. I wish you much peace to all, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.